Welcome back everyone. It is time to finish 2017 with my overall top 10 figures of the year. So if you've seen my Marvel Legends list and my Black Series list, you kind of know what I'm doing here. If not, we'll lay down some ground rules. First of all, the figures have to have been released this year in the 2017 calendar year, and then I had to have purchased them. It doesn't do me any good to throw things on the list that I just think are good. You know, there's not going to be a Hulkbuster Hot Toys on this list because I don't own that thing, so I can't put them on here. Beyond that though, pretty much anything is fair game. I have reviewed everything that is on this list except for one. We had a really late edition that I just couldn't not put on the list once I got it in hand. So in addition to that, I'm going to throw out that I can, since it's my list and I'll do what I want, allow figures to share a spot if I feel like it's necessary, or if they, there's no reason not to have all of something because of what they are. So with that in mind, let's get started with a few honorable mentions that aren't individual figures, but just some things that I'm really happy about that occurred this year that don't necessarily appear on a top 10 list, but I think are worth mentioning. The first of which goes out to Super 7 as a whole. They have blown me away with their continued interest in Masters of the Universe. Not just that, but their Iron Maiden figures, their Misfit figures, things like that, that really make me love that company. Not to mention the fact that, of course, we've gotten tons of Motu stuff from them. They have the Classics license. They are pumping out figures, and we have a lot of stuff coming. I know there have been delays, and people are unhappy about that, but that's just the way it is. I am very happy with their transparency towards the whole delay issue and what they shown when Brian Flynn went out to China. So that stuff is just really cool to see behind the scenes of action figure making, and just everything they do screams that they are 100% invested in Masters of the Universe, and I am really looking forward to what they are doing and what they have done this past year. In that same vein, thinking about Masters of the Universe, I'm going to give a shout out to Funko as well, because they have revitalized Masters of the Universe in their own right with Dorbs and their new vinyl line and Pops, of course. And then, of course, they've gotten Thundercats back alive as well. So everything that I love about those two properties is really starting to pick up steam again, which I couldn't be happier with. So that's always something that I am very passionate about, Thundercats in particular. And then lastly, just a shout out to Hasbro. I'm not going to put these on the list, but I am really happy with their initiative to get 6-inch carded figures out. You know, the vintage style Marvel Legends. Whether people like those or not, I think it's cool. I like to have bigger carded figures. And then of course the 40th anniversary Black Series. Despite the distribution issues there, I am 100% a fan of what they did. It speaks to the modern collector and the vintage collector, and I think they look awesome. I've got a whole set of unopened for both those and the vintage Legends figures, so I am 100% on board with that. I hope they don't go too crazy with them. I don't need a room full of carded 6-inch figures, but to do something special like that every now and again, I think is really cool. Alright guys, so let's get started with the actual listed stuff, and we're going to kick things off with the figure, ironically, that I haven't actually had time to review yet. Well, figures, I should say. We're already going to do that. So I just haven't had time because I've been doing these lists. They came really late. I've only had them a few days, but I knew the minute I got them out of their box that they were going to be on my list, and I couldn't not put them in, so I figure we'll get them in at number 10. That is going to go to Boss Fight Studios Bucky O'Hare and First Mate Jenny figures. These things are just exceptional action figures. They may be small and they may be a little pricey, but they look exceptionally good. They have swappable faces, swappable hands, accessories, resealable collector-friendly packaging, and I'm just a huge Bucky O'Hare fan. I loved the comics as a kid. I loved the cartoon. I loved the figures. So to get new, highly articulated figures that look just like the originals is too much to pass up. And of course, we're finally getting First Mate Jenny. We never got her in the vintage line, so it was an instant purchase for me, and they have absolutely exceeded my expectations. One of the biggest toys on the list goes to number 9, and that is going to be the SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Shenron figure. So the minute I knew that this was coming out, it was an instant pre-order, and so much so that I had to get it from Japan just so I got it early. It is enormous. It is expertly detailed. It may not be the most dynamic thing in the world because it's really meant to be sat in one position, but this is the epitome of what Shenron is. I think it's awesome. It's huge, and it just looks perfect as a backdrop or a centerpiece for my SH Figuarts Dragon Ball figures. So I couldn't have not purchased him, and when I finally got him in hand and I've had enough time to play with him, I knew that he was going to be one of my favorite figures of the year, and I wasn't wrong. If you've watched any of my quarterly videos up till now, there has been one figure, at least, that I can think of that has lasted throughout all of them, and that goes to number 8, the Reaction Garthim figure from the Dark Crystal. So I've pretty much said from the get-go that this guy absolutely was going to be on my top 10 list. I have a huge affinity for the Dark Crystal. I absolutely love the movie. I love everything about it. It really speaks to me for whatever reason. It's a weird movie, so that probably says something. But the fact that we finally got these figures that were never created in the 80s, we got the rest of the series in 2016, and they were my sole honorable mention that I did last year on Instagram. So we finally got the Garthim in early 2017, around February, I believe, and I absolutely love them. I have 2 of them. I needed 2 to make kind of a little set on my shelf. They look great. They have that vintage retro style. They're really big and bulky compared to the rest of the figures, and it's just a little figure, but it does a lot for me personally, so I had to throw this guy on my top 10. Moving on to number 7, we've got yet another SH Figuarts Dragon Ball figure. We have got the Nappa figure, and I think I'm not alone when I say that he's probably one of the better Dragon Ball figures that have been released this year. He's for me the best Dragon Ball figure that's been released this year. And I am just happy to finally have this guy on my shelf. There's been a lot of Dragon Ball stuff towards the end of the year, and I've really filled out a lot of my cases with DB figures, and I think he is easily one of the better ones that I have. He's big, he's bulky, he's got a lot of accessories, and they absolutely nailed the anime likeness of this character. I think he is just exceptional, and just my love of the Saiyan saga in the anime really made me want to have this figure. And of course my biases obviously play a role here, so I couldn't not buy this figure, and then when I finally got him in hand, I was just in love, so he had to appear on this list. And here we go with another instance of I need 2 figures in the same spot because there's really no way you can't put these 2 together. Number 6 is going to the SH Figuarts Star Wars series R2-D2 and C-3PO figures. These guys are everything that I have wanted in 6-inch scale, or close enough, it's Figuarts, droids. I think they are amazingly detailed. They have a lot of sculpt work into them. 3PO looks amazing. R2 is beautifully done, and I think they did 3PO just well enough that they didn't really do vac metal, but he shines really well, and they look perfect next to each other. I couldn't be happier with how they turned out. I'm not sure which one I like more than the other. Probably R2, just because he comes with other stuff, but 3PO is great. If you need 6-inch scale droids and you don't really think Black Series does it well enough, and you aren't into model kits, because the Bandai model kits are also really nice, these are definitely the way to go. I couldn't be happier with how they turned out, and they absolutely go together. You can't buy one without the other. Who would think of doing that? So they have to share a spot, R2 and 3PO. Now moving on, if you've seen my Black Series top 10 list, you know what to expect in terms of my favorite individual figure of the year. And that goes to our number 5 on this overall list, Darth Vader. So this is the new and improved Vader that we got in the early bird kit and that we eventually got in just a single mainline release. He is, in my opinion, the best Darth Vader figure there is. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that. He's certainly the best one that I own, and he is easily one of the best Black Series figures in the line. That said, he is the 3rd attempt from Hasbro at making the figure, so that kind of docks him down just a little bit, because let's face it, they could have done this from the get-go, I believe. That said, he is an amazing figure. He looks basically as perfect as you can get for a 6-inch Darth Vader, so there's no way he couldn't appear on my list, so I had to put him at number 5. Keeping with the trend of my previous top 10 list, we're going to go back to the Marvel Legends list, and if you saw that video, you know what my number 1 Legends is, and there's a very good chance, now that I think about it, that he is probably my favorite Legends period, because in Legends I only really buy what I want and what I like. And this guy is the epitome of what I like. So number 4 on this list is going to go to Marvel Legends Shatterstar. I'm sure somebody out there is scratching their head right now of how could he put this just regular figure on the list. But again, this is my favorite stuff. He is technically an okay figure. He doesn't have anything special about him, but everything about him epitomizes this character. This facial features that they've sculpted in look like the comic books. The overall suit design looks like the comic books. The swords look like the comics. And he is one of my favorite Marvel characters for reasons that I still have a hard time explaining. So when I found out that he was coming out, he was an instant hunt and buy, and I found him right away. So I've had him pretty much since the minute he came out, and he has not disappointed me. I still like posing him. I still like taking pictures of him. So he was a no-brainer to put on this list. And we are again going back to my top 10 lists for number 3. We're going back to Star Wars, and I'm sure you're wondering, well, how can we go back if Vader was your number 1, how can something be higher than Vader? I'm going to get really specific with this one because this goes back specifically to an SDCC release. So there was a mainline release for this figure and the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive version, and that's the one that I'm focusing on. The figure is great, don't get me wrong, but if you didn't get the San Diego Comic-Con version, you definitely missed out on something special. So number 3 on this list goes to the Black Series Grand Admiral Thrawn exclusive set. This thing is easily, as far as I'm concerned, the best exclusive Hasbro has done in the line, period. The box is amazing. Every accessory he comes with is absolutely amazing. Everything they did to make a complete package just, again, is amazing. Not to mention the fact that I have a huge affinity for this character and have for a very long time. The figure itself, while he maybe isn't technically as good as Darth Vader, is overshadowed by the fact that he comes with so much stuff. He comes with all of the little accessories to make his office. He comes with the box that transforms into his office. And the price point that he was at was almost unbeatable. There's no way that any Black Series collector couldn't not have this thing in their collection unless, of course, you just couldn't get a hold of it or couldn't afford it. So he was a no-brainer in this particular configuration to be on my list. The runner-up spot for this list is one that I have had trouble figuring out for a while. A lot of things have come and gone from this particular slot, and I went back to a figure that I thought I was going to remove from the list entirely. So number 2 is going to the SH Figuarts Star Wars series Han Solo figure. I've had a lot of time to really look at this figure. I've had it in my case for a very long time. He's been out for quite a while. And the more that I look at it, the more I realize that this is probably the perfect Han Solo figure for me. It is leaps and bounds above the Black Series figure. The face on it is amazing. The overall articulation and design and sculpt is perfect. Pair him with Chewbacca, who I honestly have a few issues with, and they make a great set. That's why Chewie's not in here, but he's a great figure in his own right. Han on his own, though, is something special. I almost didn't want to put him on here, and then I went back and took a look, and I realized that I would have been foolish to not include him. And the more I've looked at him over the past few days trying to figure out this list, I knew that this figure was absolutely amazing, and I had to put him in the list, and when all things came to it, he's number 2 for me. And coming in at our top spot, number 1, it almost feels like this is cheating, and you know what, it probably is, because this figure, and well, these figures, because I'm doing it again, you kind of have to with these, they just are in a category all their own. I've said it when I've done the reviews for each individual one that I don't understand how NECA manages to make these figures at this price point, and the fact that they are so amazing and that every time I see them on my shelf, I just have to stop and stare for a second because they are that good. That really tells me that I've got something special and that they really have nailed this particular line. So the number 1 spot for me, and if I have to pick one, I will, but the number 1 spot is going to the NECA quarter scale Ninja Turtle figures. I know Donatello came out at the tail end of 2016, so if we have to be technical about that, we'll just say Leo, Raph, and Mikey. And if I had to pick one, it would be Mikey, because despite the fact he's not my favorite turtle, he might be the best one in the line. He had all of that time for them to tweak things and make things a little better. I think he has the most expressive face, and then of course he comes with a lot of cool accessories. He's got that bag of pork rinds, but the set as a whole is just something exceptional, especially at that price point. I don't fully understand how they do it, and I am really looking forward to their Foot Soldier and Shredder, but these turtles really do it for me. They look like they jumped right out of the movie screen. They come with exceptional number of accessories, and for a quarter scale figure, they have amazing articulation. But for me, they might be among the best figures, best toys in my entire collection. And I think that says a lot for where I had to put them. So there was no doubt in my mind from the minute I got Donatello and Raphael and Leonardo and ultimately Michelangelo that there is no way these could not be my top figures. They just have everything going for them: sculpt, paint, accessories, and then you think about the fact that they are that big of a figure and are, you know, $100 generally, and I've gotten all of them for less than that. You're onto something special here. If you have not gotten a hold of these and you are a Ninja Turtle fan, I think you owe it to yourself to at least take a look at them, and you'd be surprised. I'm sure you would absolutely love having one of these, and by that I mean all of them, in your collection. So yeah, there we are. 2017 is over and done with. Let me know what you guys think of this list. Are there any oddballs in there? I'm sure there's at least one, probably that Marvel Legends figure, but these figures are special to me. I think that, you know, it's not necessarily what's technically best, it's what I particularly love. So I would love to know what you guys have and your lists down below. Let me know what you think. You know, even what's your top figure. It don't have to be a top 10, just let me know. And with that, I do want to thank everybody for sticking with me this year. Channel's growing pretty decently. I've never expected to have any real success doing this, but I guess after cranking out over 300 videos in a year, something's going to change. We broke 150,000 views and over 900 subscribers as of this video, which I am pretty proud of. I appreciate all of your likes and the shares and of course the comments. I love having discussions with everybody down below about all these toys that we all buy and love. So with that, it's closing out 2017, and I will see you all in 2018, in a couple days, with some new reviews.